This is Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. From the corporate office to the cab of a truck, they're here to inspire and empower women in all professions. So gear down, sit back, and enjoy.
Welcome. We're an award-winning show dedicated to empowering women in every profession through inspiring stories and expert insights. No topic is off limits on our show. We power women on the road to success with expert and celebrity interviews and information you need. I'm Shelley, and Kathy's on assignment. Women in business have unique challenges that often hold them back. From gender bias to marginalization, women have to overcome many things in the corporate world, as well as when they're business owners. Trixy Castro is passionate about empowering women to excel in business and in their own companies. Trixy is the true definition of the American dream, showing that hard work and perseverance pay off. The daughter of Cuban immigrants, her parents strove to give her a life that was better than theirs. Trixy learned the value of hard work in business at an early age. She started her first business at 14. Over the course of 20 years, Trixy has founded and invested in over 50 companies across many industries. She's self-made and is the former founder and CEO of Genesis Capital, which was acquired by Goldman Sachs. She also was the CEO and owner of Hudson and Marshall, acquired by Fidelity National Title. Trixy is a wealth of information. She shares her success strategies as an engaging speaker and mentor to help people leverage their strengths and achieve their goals by changing their mindsets. I have Trixy with me today to share some of her incredible insight. Welcome, Trixy. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor. So excited to be here.
Oh, and I'm so excited to pick your brain. You have such an impressive background. And I love the motto you have on your website. It says, Fearless Female Founder. That's great. I mean, that really says it all. And you really have conquered fear.
I'm like, oh boy, haven't I? Yes, no, absolutely. That's something that, once we make up our mind to do it, we tackle it and face it and overcome it every day.
And that's something that so many people get paralyzed by, or the self-doubt. And I also see, as a child, you never took no for an answer. No's a word I've never liked either. So we can get along on that one.
Absolutely. I don't even think I hear no. I think what my translation of it is, oh, clearly they didn't understand what I was saying. Let me say it differently.
I love it. I love it. So you went into business at the age of 14. What kind of business was that? I mean, that's amazing.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. But I had made the soccer team and the cheer squad at the same time. And each sport was, I think, like $1,000 or something. So I had to come up with $2,000. I didn't want to be stressing my parents out, right? My parents came here and worked really, really hard, but having the ability to make money was something that was foreign. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go earn it. I'll go make a living. I'll go work. Turns out at 14, you need a worker's permit, you need someone to give you a ride, and and.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I've got a week and a half, let me get it together. And I have two younger sisters, 10 and 11 years younger than myself. And at the time, they were at an elementary school right across the street. So I made business cards with magic markers and computer paper.
I love it.
I named my company Trixie's Tutor Time. I went across the street and I spoke to the principal. I explained to him what I was doing, and he was gracious enough to give me an opportunity to introduce me to the teachers. And I think everybody understood at that point, hey, she's trying to do something, right? Let's team alongside of her. And to make a long story short, I was making within 1 month more money under the table in cash than both my parents combined.
Oh, wow.
And I think there were so many lessons that came from that, right? One of which was, where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm living proof of that, right? I wanted something. How do we go out and get it? And then I realized, I can be strategic and I can make my sweet spot the second and third graders. And I can start mentoring and training and teaching the fifth and sixth graders to come help me. And now I can expand to another school. So I ended up hiring my mom to drive me to the other schools every day. So it was a great experience. And I really wanted to then teach myself, okay, let me follow the money, right? So I knew that there was money in banking. So I walked into a Wells Fargo branch and asked them if I could become a teller so that I could learn. And that's where I had the first exposure to real estate. And that is where I would see my larger depositors were generally in three categories at the time. One being real estate, second being tech, which was still very new, right, at the time, and the third being gambling. Wasn't trying to, count cards. Tech was still, something we were all learning at that time. And so real estate became something that I became very fascinated with and really wanting to understand, how are they doing this? How are they acquiring these assets? What are they doing with them? The whole thing, which is how both of my companies, Genesis Capital and Genesis Auctions, which later became Hudson and Marshall, were birthed.
Wow. That's quite a metamorphosis. Now, you must have gone to college or gotten licensed to do all of these things, and you must have also had some tremendous mentors.
So yes, I was in college living in a dorm room and having this, big girl job at the bank, and I loved it. And I was getting more and more responsibility and more I'm seeing, here's a niche that is underserved. Here's a group of investors, right, that are going out. And in those days, any of them were buying anywhere from 50 to 125 foreclosed homes a month. And they're not using any leverage. We, the bank, right, we could do something about that, except for there was no we could do something about that, because at that time it was consumer lending, right, where you live in the home that you occupy, not what's considered B2B, where it's an investment property. And so this was very untapped. It was very much the Wild West. And to your point, you needed to have licenses, CFL licenses. You need to have all sorts of different things. So I set out to learn the business really well and to get all of these pieces in place. And I spent about 5 years doing it all. And when I tell you I was doing it all, I was the originator, I was the processor, I was answering the phones, underwriting, all of it. And it was an amazing experience. But I realized, I need to figure out how to create a fund, right? So now you add a whole nother layer of complexity becoming a fund manager, because I want to be able to mitigate the risk, right? I don't want to be so heavily concentrated in just one area and one zip code where you can be wiped out by a myriad of different natural disasters and the likes. I want to go national. So to your point, I wanted to go and get licensed in all 50 states and do all of the things that one needed to do to set this up as a company that could be acquired by a, Wall Street firm like a Goldman type. And so definitely put in the work those 5 years, which was hard because that was almost like my side hustle, right? So I had my job and school, and then really putting that together and wanted to do it right. And I'll never forget when the time came to put the fund together, and, the all-in cost, let's say it was $100,000. Well, that was a tremendous amount of money for me. My hand shook when I wrote the check.
I bet. Yeah.
But it was the most incredible, experience. And I always tell people it was a license to print money, because at that point you become unstoppable. Once you have a vehicle that could work and there's a need, right, and you get to know your product better than anyone else, then it's just a matter of, how far do you want to take this thing? And so that was really the genesis of it. Like, it was an incredible experience. I wanted to really understand the marketplace. I wanted to get to know my borrowers, not just the asset, right? Really understand, who am I dealing with? What does it look like? Do they, what does their capital stack look like, right? Are their investors now pushing them to acquire more than what they have capacity for, right? Are they aligned with the team? Are they outsourcing? What does it look like? And I think just being inquisitive and asking just asking questions and really helping them understand how leverage really works in your favor and doing the math, it became almost just like a thing, right? It became a thing that was now part of them underwriting their assets in their homes. And, interestingly enough, at that time, the majority of distressed real estate was being purchased at the courthouse steps, right? At these steps. And I would realize that these groups would get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and they would start doing all of their diligence at that time, looking at title, looking at values, having runners go to the properties. So I started getting up at 4:30 in the morning and getting to their office just to watch what they were doing so that I could learn. And till this day, I'm still an early riser, right? Every day, like clockwork. Since then, it's stuck. And it was really good habits, right, that have helped me throughout different businesses and different platforms. But that's truly how it started. And I should tell you that I started with a phone and a desk. That was it. When I went out and launched on my own, and it was probably the smallest desk you've ever seen, more like a folding table. And you know, and it was I had great pride of ownership for it.
Someone should make a movie about you. This is amazing. And the amount of determination and ambition. And when did you sleep? I mean, you were doing so many things. It's just amazing.
Well, and I loved it, right? And my original investors are still with me today. And
that speaks volumes. That's
I love
huge.
it. They've become like my American parents, if you will, right? I mean, they're just absolutely amazing. And they were in the trenches with me, like, hey, you know, take a look at my investor letter. What do you think? And, you know, it's really neat that we're all really family today. But even cuter, if you will, is my first employee was a 14-year-old girl named Brittany. And she was at my brother's gym. He was in the fitness industry at the time, asking him for a job. And I happened to be there that day. And I said, what do you need a job for? And she says, I need to buy a prom dress. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, this girl must be like 13, 14. I'm like, prom dress? Who are you going to the prom with? Who is this boy? What's happening? Where's your mom? Right? I asked her all the questions. And I tell her, I said, you know what? I've got this company. Come learn real estate with me. We'll figure it out together. So if you can imagine, my first employee was 14 years old. So my phones were answered from like 3 to 6. And then she has the audacity to go get the lead of the high school play. I'll never forget. It was Bye Bye Birdie. So now my phones are not being answered. So we have her best friend, also named Brittany. So you have one redhead and one blonde, right? And then myself. And we're all still working together till this day.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't that amazing? So
it really is.
Sold companies. We're all still working together. But out of that, you know, just, you know, we were so passionate and so young. You know, I considered myself the slightly older, you know, auntie. But it was just this mission that we wanted to do. We really wanted to change the game in housing in the US. And we really believed that we could. And so when I looked at it, I now had this responsibility to these 2 other women that, you know, were believing in my vision. You know, they could be out doing a million things at that age, right? And they were choosing to come and help me and work with me. And so it's been an incredible journey, but my team has always been something that's been, you know, obviously many, many more people have joined the team throughout the years and all of that. But I think one of the things that's most rewarding is we've been able to inspire many people that have worked for me that have, you know, gone on their own and become entrepreneurs in their own fields and passions, oftentimes myself investing in them. So it's been a lot of fun.
Bravo.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years. I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
If you're enjoying this informative episode of Women Road Warriors, I wanted to mention Kathy and I explore all kinds of topics that will power you on the road to success. We feature a lot of expert interviews. Plus, we feature celebrities and women who've been trailblazers. Please check out our podcast at womenroadwarriors.com and click on our episodes page. We're also available wherever you listen to podcasts, on all the major podcast channels like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, you name it. Check us out and bookmark our podcast. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other sites. And tell others about us. We want to help as many women as possible. Women can achieve anything they want to. They just need to replace fear with confidence and leverage their tribe. No person is an island. Trixy Castro teaches women how to succeed in business and in life. She believes where there's a will, there's a way. She started her first business at the age of 14, and she's got a background in finance and real estate. Over the course of 20 years, Trixy has founded and invested in over 50 companies across many industries. She's self-made and is the former founder and CEO of Genesis Capital, which was acquired by Goldman Sachs. She also was the CEO and owner of Hudson and Marshall, acquired by Fidelity National Title. Trixy is a wealth of information. She spent many years working with women to help them learn how to leverage their assets. She shows women how to compete in a man's world, even if they're not part of the boys' club, so they can participate where the deals are being made. She teaches women how to outmaneuver and be savvy to accomplish what they want to accomplish so they have a seat at the table. Trixy, you really are an inspiration. You are empowering so many people. You provided training ground for young people, too, that they wouldn't normally get. I mean, even at a young age, you were a really great mentor. And just frankly amazing. A lot of people in their early 20s have no clue what they want to do. You know, a lot of them go to college and specialize in beer pong and that kind of stuff too. So what a wonderful example. As an entrepreneur, you provide the kind of training and example that people can really grasp. You pivoted to help women and others, I'm sure, with all of your strategies in terms of success, changing their mindsets, leveraging their strengths, and achieving their goals. Certainly, women have a different set of obstacles probably than men.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, because I'm looking here, I want to digress for just a minute. We've made progress breaking through the glass ceiling, but women still are in a minority. I read a stat by Pew Research from 2023. Women make up just over 10% of chief executives and just over a little over 30% for board members. So we still have a ways to go in the corporate world. Where do you think women need to make the progress, and what are the obstacles that they're still facing?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. We've made a lot of progress, right? I've seen it myself throughout my own career, but we still have a lot that we can do. And I think that one of the most helpful things is having women like yourself that pave the way and empower and talk about these challenges, right? Because there are so many. It's like, where do I start?
Yeah.
But that's the reality, right? And so as women, we are told in so many different ways that you have to always have it together, always be happy, always be in a good mood, always, positive, Pollyanna, and all of those things are great. But let's face it, there is the weight of the world on our shoulders every day, and we're spinning a million different plates. And so I think that having a forum where women can be transparent and talk about that and give each other advice, simple things like, hey, this is how I calendar this, or this is how I use my tribe to help me with kid pickup, right? Because otherwise you're facing like the mom guilt and all the things that we face really is helpful. But as far as the challenges, there's so many. One of the challenges that I can tell you that was very difficult for me, and I remember having to sit down and like have a conversation with myself, and it went something like this. It was like, okay, Trix, get it together. Do not let it affect you, right? This is noise. And how are you going to solve this problem? And the problem was I wasn't a part of the boys club. I wasn't able to go to the bar and drink and do the things, or go to golf, and I wasn't invited on the ski trips. And obviously I understood why, but that's where the deals at the time were being made.
Sure. Yeah.
And there was the one I was just sharing, where I had gone to an institution for a year and a half to try and get the business. Okay. a year and a half of anything, like we should have been, 100 million miles down the road, and we weren't. It's the most bizarre thing, because I kept thinking, my goodness, like I'm doing everything right. They're applauding me. When I'm there, it's like, yes, yes, yes. And then nothing happens. And I thought, could it be that I don't look like them? Like, is that really where it could be?
Mm-hmm.
I thought, no, it's impossible. We've come too far. This wasn't, that long ago. So I thought, all right, like, two can play at this game. So I went and I hired, if you will, a chairman that looked exactly like my audience. It was everything that I thought they would want to see. I brought him to the meeting, and they were like, oh my God, you're like America's entrepreneur. You're amazing. Da, 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 da. Let's sign 10 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes in. And here's the crazier part. 8 times in that meeting, I counted, I had like little tally marks. He had to redirect them and say, no, but she's the expert. No, but she's the expert. And I vowed that day to myself to always be that champion for women. If there's ever a connection I can make, an introduction, or any way that I could be helpful to a woman in business or in the corporate world or leadership capacity in any way, 100%, that's what I'm doing, right? Because it was a way to not break into the boys club, right?
Yeah.
And so that's an example that I hope and pray many women don't have to go through in today's world, but somebody had to go through it, right? Somebody had to do it and champion it. But, all of these challenges, I think when I'm able to stop and process that it's noise, right? It's just another challenge. Don't take it personal, because then it's going to affect me, right? Just outmaneuver and use your savviness, right, to try and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish and to solve the problem. Then I took the emotion out of it, and my mindset was right, and I was clear vision, and here we go, right? And then the sky's the limit. But it was that, as an entrepreneur, as a female, we are just it was so passionate about what we do, right?
Yep.
So it's like telling us our baby's ugly. Are you kidding?
Well, it is true. Women take their business and treat it like a child. They really do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You were so fortuitous to be able to take a step back and realize why you weren't getting the deal, why you couldn't close it. And the fact, unfortunately, that there was still this perception that they wouldn't talk about. They didn't want to do business with you because you didn't look like them. You weren't one of the guys,
Right. And it was like, okay, like let's just get it done then, one way or another, right? And so, I only share that with you and the listeners because it is a reality. And at first I thought, no, I'm crazy. It couldn't be this. All right, well, it is a reality. Things happen. It's not always going to be a level playing field, but we can certainly try every single day to move the ball forward to get it to be that. And I think that women, during COVID, we saw this, right? It was, we're all of a sudden stuck at home working. And if you're a working mom, you've got kids in the background, because none of us were prepared to now be teachers and daycare providers. And we still had jobs to do, right? So I can't tell you how many times it was, I would see when people thought they were off camera, eye rolls when the children would enter the room. It wasn't like they were screaming, and not just for myself, I mean, in general. And it was like, well, how is that fair, right? We're all trying to just accomplish the same thing. And I think as women, we saw and had even more to balance and to juggle, and we still did it, right? And we still took it on and were able to do it. And, it's now much more common to work from home and the likes, but, that was something that was new to us as well.
It's a matter of pivoting. And I think that women are actually better at adapting. I think there have been some studies on that, and just the way our brains work. We have to constantly anticipate something. I mean, I think biologically we're wired to raise children. You have to know what that kid's going to be doing.
Right.
You can't trust what they're saying. It's like, where are they? Why is there silence? Where are they heading next? That kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's just something that's natural in our brains, and we have the capability. We just have to not take it personally. That is so hard, because we do take it, I think, more emotionally. I'm sure, yes, guys get upset, but they seem to brush it off maybe easier than women do. And women seem to have a lot of self-doubt and self-sabotage and imposter syndrome.
Right. And then we get stuck there, right? And then when you're looking for something, then you start finding it, right? So if you're looking for a way to beat yourself up, you start, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have handled this differently. And I tell women all the time, stop. Remember one thing. You are the reason that all the people in that room are in that room, right? So there is a completely different way to look at this. Sure, we all have areas that we can improve, but that self-doubt, that's noise. Just block out the noise. And that changes your perception. If you really believe you can do something and it's something that you've, thought out really well and you have a plan, there's no reason to listen to somebody else's opinion that is contrary to that. And I tell women all the time, they're not paying your bills.
Very true.
Yeah. And so why take the advice of somebody if you're not seeing like, hey, they really are doing something I want to do, or they've done something I would like to do, consider your source is kind of my point with it, because the rest to me is noise and staying true to oneself. And I think that in general, we tend to take on so much, right, as women, and kind of blame ourselves for anything that goes wrong. And that can be good, but it also can be very draining. And it's hard to admit, hey, I'm tired, or it's hard to admit, I need a break, or this meeting was really tough, or my boss is difficult, because we're just putting these expectations on ourselves or allowing others to, where we're just supposed to have it together all the time. And that's just not reality, right? We're still human beings that, are going to face challenges.
Do you think that sometimes management sets unrealistic expectations for women that they don't set for men?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you time and time and time again, and it's gotten better through the years. I walk into a room now and I'm not asked to serve the coffee and the tea and the water. Sure, I'm happy to serve you coffee, tea, water, 100%. I'll make you a sandwich while we're at it, but I'm here to actually get a deal done, right?
Yeah.
So that was always, oh, wait, we're here to meet you. It was always that. And your name is Trixie. Like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Are you sure? Sure. Yep, pretty sure. And so I think we've gotten better in that regard, right? But do I think that women are expected to do it differently? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's still, not always the most fair of an environment in the workplace.
So how do we do it differently and when? I think that that's still something that we're all trying to unpack. How do we gain the advantage and the leverage that we're supposed to have doing a business deal, but we have to do it differently so we get accepted, so we can get that deal, get whatever the project is, say at the corporate level, get that approved so we can move forward. How do we do that?
So what I've found to be helpful to me is several things, one of which is talking about it and being transparent. What I mean by that is you go to a lunch and oftentimes men will tell you all the deals they're working on. I'm working on this, I got this is going to hit, right? And that's totally normal. How often do we go to a women's lunch and talk about deals, right? Or, hey, I'm going through this challenge, or I'm looking for this hire. So I think talking about it to whomever you think could be helpful as a sounding board, or, any piece of that, I think is incredibly important. And I think being able to leverage your tribe and ask for the need, right? So I've identified I need X, whatever X is, right? Maybe it's an introduction, maybe it's a new hire, maybe it's, hey, I need somebody to talk to because, I want to move up in my job and I'm not really sure how to talk to my boss. I've gone to them 2 or 3 times, right? How do you leverage your tribe and grow that tribe so that you have a little bit of information from a lot of different places, right? Because sometimes we can tend to get tunnel vision. And as women, we're trying so hard to just get the things done. And sometimes getting the things done create more work for ourselves, right? So if we can just stop for a second, identify what is the challenge or need, and then really look to our tribe and who can we talk to and leverage, because 9 times out of 10, men and women are always willing to help. Like they just have to know what it is that you need. Most people in business that I've ran into and dealt with are more than willing to help because they understand what it's like on some level, having had the challenge, right? So I think being transparent and identifying what your need, right, or the issue is kind of step one. And being able to leverage your tribe, right, and being able to leverage their contacts on how I can, do A, B, and C. Now we have so much information at our fingertips, podcasts and so many different ways that we can absorb information. And all of those things are great in addition to that human element, right? Because somebody that's been through the trenches is going to tell you the narrative very differently than somebody who, in a way, than you're reading about it or that you're thinking about it or something like that. So I think being able to leverage the people part is a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. That requires some trust, though. To leverage your tribe, you have to be able to pick your tribe. You want to have people that you can trust. I have heard it said that women don't always work together the way they should. There can be a lot of infighting and that sort of thing. How do we get around that, and how can we be astute enough to pick the right people to talk to?
So that is a great question. And that is something that I think we, just like a muscle, we make it stronger over time, because we're all going to choose wrong once, twice, 10 times, right? I mean, look, that's just how life is. We're all going to choose incorrectly. But I think that if we can stop and look at when we've chosen incorrectly, and realize why we made that choice, what attracted us or made us enamored of that person or made us think that they were going to behave differently. We can identify where that little vulnerability piece was in ourselves and kind of keep an eye on it, right? It's kind of like protecting your blind spot, if you will. I think that helps us and can continue to help us as we grow in ourselves, because I think, like any muscle, you've got to work at it. And I think that once you identify that this person really isn't aligned, we're not aligned in our vision and our thinking or our moral compass or however it fits in, move on. Right? So many times as women, we want to fix it. We want to convince them, here is why you should drink water. Why do we need to convince everybody, right? They want to drink water, great. You don't want to drink water, great, right? And so I think it's just this, we don't need to convince everybody of everything. We have to choose wisely. And part of that is choosing ourselves. So when we choose ourselves to reflect on, okay, here was a little miss. All right, great. I now know this is an area that I need to keep an eye on, right? And it's an area I can grow that muscle. Then that carries over into, all right, this person is not aligned, or I don't think that the synergies are there, or I got this funny feeling, or, I feel like it's very competitive, or whatever the issue is where your spidey senses are, are up. Walk away at that point. Just, do good things quickly and bad, do bad things quickly and good things slowly, right? And so just quickly end it instead of trying to, make something different with somebody.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that would be something that I would encourage everybody, because, as an employer, as a boss, as a manager, you're constantly trying to grow people. And there's just, you're going to have some people that their halos are just on a little tilted, and there's nothing you can do.
or they lost their halo a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Or in some cases, they're throwing it at us.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more of Women Road Warriors coming up.
Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I have one question for you. Do you want to stop worrying about the IRS? If the answer is yes, then look no further. I've been around for years. I've helped countless people across the country, and my success rate speaks for itself. So now you know where to find good, honest help with your tax problems. What are you waiting for? If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed in years, call me now at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com for a free consultation and get your life back.
Industry movement Trucking Moves America Forward is telling the story of the industry. Our safety champions, the women of trucking, independent contractors, the next generation of truckers, and more. Help us promote the best of our industry. Share your story and what you love about trucking. Share images of a moment you're proud of. And join us on social media. Learn more at truckingmovesamerica.com.
Welcome back to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro.
Trixy Castro is passionate about empowering women to excel in business and in their own companies. Over the course of 20 years, she's founded and invested in over 50 companies across many industries. She's self-made. She believes in the power of networking and building our tribes to gain the support we need to compete. This helps when women need introductions or a door open for their success. Women can champion other women. Trixy says we have to learn not to take things personally when we encounter obstacles. We need to learn how to outmaneuver to get us to our goal. Women get stuck in self-sabotage and are unable to see the solutions. She said we should block out the noise of self-doubt and consider the source of outside voices that run contrary to our overall objectives that don't align with our goals. Choose wisely and know when someone else does not align or have the proper synergies with our business objectives. Stop constant self-blame, get a sounding board, and leverage our tribe. Get a little bit of information from many places. Identify the challenge and the need. We need to look to our tribe for the help that we want. Trixy, I think women do like to fix things, and then they tend to ruminate. And I think women are more caught up on, oh, that person doesn't like me.
Right.
I'm not sure that men care about that. I think they just let it roll off. It's like, okay, if you don't like me, so what?
Right.
They have a goal, they know what they want to do, and they are focused. So that's an important thing. And you focus on mindset, changing the mindset. Mindset definitely can sabotage. What kind of mindset would you say interferes with our success?
I think it's ourselves. And you hit on something. You just brought up such an incredible point that women, we tend to focus on someone not liking us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we really peel back that onion, right? It's because oftentimes that's the only reason that we get a foot at the door. You know what I mean? That's the only reason, because they do like us, that we are told we have this opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And that's not actually real. That's what we're told. So that's what we've bought into. But the truth of the matter is, you're comparing apples to apples. Who's best at the job, right? But oftentimes we're told, oh, no, you're in that room because they like you, or this person liked you, or whatever. But it comes back to, yeah, we've been forced to have to be liked in order to be able to succeed. And so when you're putting that much pressure on yourself to have everybody like you and be all things to all people, naturally, you're going to drop the ball here and there. And that just continues this kind of thinking of like, oh, I dropped the ball, I'm going to beat myself up, into the negative thinking. And that's what cripples us, because then you become afraid of that, because you think, oh, I'm just afraid of doing the thing. But it wasn't doing the thing. It was because we were so worried about pleasing 50,000 people over here, because otherwise we don't have the opportunity. It becomes this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And I tell women all the time, just stop and really think about it. Okay, here is what I'm trying to accomplish. And in order to do those things, I need to make sure that I have my head on straight. Anything that isn't aligning with the goal, right? It's noise. And you have to be able to just remind yourself that it is noise, and we can't sit there and beat ourselves up and just sit, in fear or in panic mode. We have to be able to identify our strengths and lean in on those, right?
Mm-hmm.
And lean in on when we do these things well. And so I did an example once, and I had a room full of women, and I said, okay, let's all take out a piece of paper, old school, write it out, right? Write down all of the things that you want to improve about yourself. And like, people are writing like furiously, writing, asking for more time, flipping the page over, writing more. Okay, fine. All right, now let's write out the things we like about ourselves, that we think we do well. There was like 2 things, 3 things. People are just staring at me, pencils down, everyone's staring at me. And I'm like, that's the problem, right? We are so focused on all of these things that we think we're missing the ball. And the reality is, half of those things don't even matter. So it's focusing on the good things, right? It might just be 3, but those that you can see in yourself. But over time, if you work on those 3, you start to see that there's really 6. You start to see that there's 12. You start to see yourself for who you really are and your true value. And that alone starts to improve, right? Our self-love and our confidence. When you replace fear with confidence, your whole life changes. So it has to start in our own minds, right? Because if we don't believe it, why would anybody else? And that's a hard shift. That's a hardship, like anything, right? When we are deciding to be healthy and, get our eating a certain way and exercise, it's never easy. Nobody's like, oh my gosh, it was the easiest thing, a walk in the park. Of course not. It's always a challenge. And
Sure.
this is the same.
Yeah, when you start looking at yourself and really analyzing the good things about yourself, it's kind of like all of a sudden that flower that's in a bud form starts to open. Like you were saying, you start seeing more and more and more. And it is so easy for us to be perfectionists as women, to pick on ourselves, to look in the mirror and go, oh, yuck. I don't like the way I look today, that sort of thing, because we are taught that. Certainly advertising, everything that we see gives us that message. But to go inside our heads and identify things that are good about ourselves. And I like what you said, replace fear with confidence.
And it's easy to say, but hard to do, right?
Oh,
it
is.
Yes. You get used to it.
And also I think people can really get stuck in the negativity. And hanging around people who are negative, that's not cool, because then you start thinking things that are self-doubting.
And it rubs off, right? My dad used to tell me, your friends are half of who you are. And I held true to that in business. Sure, we all deal with people that, maybe aren't our favorite. Okay, fine. But truly, the people that you let into your circle, right, your tribe, they've got to be aligned with you in their in the vision and their thinking, but see you as a person and see who you really are. And if they're not reflecting that, right, if they're not asking how you're doing, how you're feeling, then maybe it's time to realize that we've outgrown some people. And that happens a lot in business, and that's not talked about, right? You feel very isolated and lonely at times as your business starts to grow, as your positioning starts to grow, as you scale in a company and your priorities change, right, and life changes. The friend group sometimes changes too. Doesn't mean that we as people are, losing something. It just means that, that's a natural progression, and that's okay to do, right? But oftentimes the priorities shift, and it's not, it's not a stage in your life where you're trying to go out and, YOLO. It's a stage where you're trying to like really build and build something unique.
Sure. We evolve like everything. And we grow. Certainly a lot of that is our maturity, our wisdom. You're wiser, maybe on the people that you associate with and that sort of thing. You don't want to have somebody who's not a champion. You want people who are going to have you there where you feel like you have a seat at the table and you have a voice.
Right. Absolutely. 100% true.
So your messages that you give people, this is helpful for people who are working in a corporation or people who want to go into business or who are currently business owners as well.
I hope so. I hope that whoever is wanting to just grow themselves in whatever capacity, right? I hope that they can take a little tidbit of, some of the good and the bad that I've been through, right? It's like anything. Hey, I've been through it. It's a battle wound, but it doesn't hurt anymore, right? It hurt back then and it was awful and it felt like my world was crumbling, but here's how I got through it. And that can be applied in anything and anywhere that they are with their career path, because we all have the same tendencies to want to do a good job. Nobody wants to just fail at something, right? We all want to do a good job, and we all take pride in what we do and in who we are. And it's so intermeshed, right? It's so intertwined with all of it together as us as women, which I think is a superpower. And I think that once we can tap into that, right? Once we can realize, hey, you know what? I can juggle 15 plates. Okay, fine. Maybe I didn't do 20, but 15 is a hell of a lot more than the person next to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I think once we could see that we have the ability to juggle and we have the ability to, do a lot and be able to move things around and pivot, like you said, those are all really important strengths, not even to mention like the emotional intelligence, which we need and we use every single day.
Yes. And we also see people who don't use it.
Right.
Unfortunately.
So, and there's that.
So where can people reach out to you, Trixy? Do you work with people virtually?
Yes, I do. This is all new to me, like I was sharing with you before. So they can definitely reach out to me on my website, trixycastro.com. But I am always here to be, helpful in any possible way that I can.
And you do speaking for groups and all of that as well? Okay.
Yes, I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. And, if I can add value to somebody and I can be helpful, I'm there. So absolutely really enjoy it.
Well, I love what you're doing. This is so very important. It takes a village. Women need to see mentors like you and champions. It makes them believe in themselves. It's like, she can do it, I can do it. That kind of thing.
Absolutely. Listen, and if you looked at me on paper, right, I wasn't supposed to beat the odds per se, right? My parents came here. My mother made it to the 10th grade in Cuba. Education wasn't, the most important thing. It was putting food on our table. I grew up, my mother and my father, we lived in the home of the people that they worked for, right? And so it was never like, oh my God, this kid's going to go out there and light the world on fire. But I had that burning desire to do that, right? And so I always tell people, like, look, if I can do it, and if you believe, yes, you can, you absolutely can and will.
That fire inside of you is really, really important. No doubt about it. Yeah, I totally get that. Bravo to what you're doing. You are an amazing lady. And we've just kind of touched on your background, but you really are a wonderful example. What is your website again, Trixy?
TrixyCastro.com. It's just my name, super easy, kept it simple. For so many years, I've been behind the scenes building the companies. I haven't really been out, sharing the story. So to have the privilege and opportunity to do that now is very meaningful to me, because that's been a huge reason and passion to build the platforms, right? To be able to say, I've done it. Here's how you can do it. Here's how, we can maybe make your life a little easier and, avoid some of the pitfalls that are out there, that type of a thing. So reach out anytime, TrixyCastro.com.
Excellent. This has been an honor having you on the show. Your insight is extremely valuable. And I know that there are going to be listeners saying, she just inspired me,
I hope so. I really hope so. So I really appreciate it. It's been an incredible honor to be here. I love what you're doing. We need more of what you're doing and how you're championing women. I mean, it's incredible. So on behalf of all women, thank you for what you're doing. We need more of it.
Well, thank you, Trixy. That encourages us. We're excited about what we're doing here. And we inspire one person. We've accomplished some of our goals here. So this is terrific.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode. And if you want to hear more episodes of Women Road Warriors or learn more about our show, be sure to check out womenroadwarriors.com. And please follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. On our website, we also have a selection of podcasts just for women. There are a series of podcasts from different podcasters. So if you're in the mood for women's podcasts, just click the Power Network tab on womenroadwarriors.com. You'll have a variety of shows to listen to anytime you want to. Podcasts made for women. Women Road Warriors is on all the major podcast channels like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, and others. So check us out, and please follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Women Road Warriors with Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro. If you want to be a guest on the show or have a topic or feedback, email us at sjohnson@womenroadwarriors.com.